Okay, we are recording. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Great Barrington Affordable Housing Trust Fund will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so by following the Zoom link on the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay, meeting's called to order. First order of business is the approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
We need to reorganize too at some point. Is that
Right. I thought we would wait until after our applicants have made a little presentation.
works for me?
Okay. So Garfield made a motion. Is there a second? To approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Are there
John,
any
you're
changes or
muted.
corrections? No, doesn't sound like it. Then roll call vote. Oh, have to admit someone. Roll call vote. Larissa.
Aye.
Garfield.
Aye.
John, you're muted, but you're still muted, John.
Aye.
There we go.
And I. Okay, that's unanimous.
I don't know if I voted, but I vote.
I don't think I heard it.
I thought I called on you, Fred. Did I miss you?
It is
Yeah.
unanimous.
All right, then it's unanimous. Next on the list is the Grove Street house. I thought we could have the applicants give us a little, I know we all have the proposals, but I thought I'd give you an opportunity to just say a few words about whatever you want to tell us about the proposals that you have. William and Caitlin, would you like to take the first shot?
Sure, thanks, Bill.
And do you prefer Bill or William?
Bill actually is good.
That's
Thank
good.
you. Thanks. So yeah, we've got the proposal we sent in to you all. We're just looking to take the house and bring it back up to a single family that matches the neighborhood. Both Caitlin and I have been living in the area for quite some time. We both work and live locally. Right now we live in Sheffield. She works in Egremont. I work over in Alford Line. And this is the area we'd like to spend our lives in living. And as you guys probably know, right now, it's a little difficult in this climate to find affordable housing, especially as first-time home buyers working locally. So we're really looking to bring that house back to where it could be in its beauty. It's got some really great elements that are going to be treasures to bring back. And we just hope we can do that.
Yeah, Bill and I, like he said, we've been living in the area for a little while. And when we started our house hunt, we pretty much assumed that in our budget, it would be really difficult to find something that we really fell in love with. And while it is a first home, you know, you should at least like it. So to potentially have the opportunity to get a house to make it into something that we really love and put our heart and soul into is just, it would really be incredible. So we're obviously excited to eventually find out the outcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a big undertaking.
Oh yeah.
Do any of the board members have questions for this proposal at this point?
Well, Bill and Caitlin, have you familiarized yourself with the restrictions that will be put on in terms of the affordable housing, in terms of the going
deed
forward?
restriction? The deed restriction, yeah, I'm familiar with it. I questioned Bill a little bit about the final language. In preparation of during our house hunt, I had taken the Mass first home buyer course anyway. So I had a depth of information given to me by, actually ended up doing it with the Franklin County people, because Berkshire County is still not operating during COVID. And I did get a lot of links, including the community housing affordability for Mass wide. So I'm familiar with the language on that and some of what the other towns are. You know, in the end, you know, we obviously want to put the money into it to bring the house back up to where it is. But ultimately, when we do leave at some point, if, you know, when that happens, maybe down the road,
10 or 20 or 30 years,
you know, who knows what could happen, but we foresee this being our forever home. We would then, you know, be happy to, and really like to give it to someone in a similar position to where we are starting off to find or in need of a home in the area. Because, you know, hopefully with your good works, it will keep the affordable housing in town well, but, you know, there's probably still always going to be a need for this type of house in the area.
It is our intention to make it permanently affordable.
Yes, I know a lot of towns like do a 15 or whatever year, some restriction, but I do think that the permanent one is a good one. My only questions will be if we get into a P&S situation, is just like, who's going to be liable, who has to make sure, double check the paperwork later on about making sure that the guidelines are followed. Is it would be our lawyer, or do you guys come back in at that point? So that's my only real question, would be more of a nuts and bolts for a possibility of it transferring, you know, at a time we would leave in the future, which we don't foresee at the moment, obviously.
Right.
Relative to the, excuse me, relative to the AMI, you're about 100%, you think?
I know the new numbers were just released. I believe we're closer to the 90%. Kate is a server and a bartender at a server restaurant, so her income fluctuates a little bit, and so does mine a little bit here. So that's where I think we are based on what 2020 it should have been, or more accurately what our current is.
Thank you. Kate works for a great restaurant.
I'm a little bit biased, but I agree.
Carrie's terrific.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh, the old mill?
Yep.
Yes.
That's crazy. I worked there for like 5 minutes.
Oh, funny.
Carrie's a wonderful employer though.
I think so.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you this, so Bill, you can, I won't ask for an answer if I can't, but how old are you guys?
I'm willing to tell you. Yeah. So I'm
I'm
28.
not sure we can really ask, but if you're.
Well, yeah.
I think it's an employment situation, but I mean, anyway, I will offer to you that I was born in '83.
Okay. I'm not,
Do the math.
I'll tell you my age, but I'll tell you if you can do the math.
Well, I'm
Figure it out.
28.
don't worry about it. I'm not good at math. Okay. I was just wondering, I'm always keen to keep young people here because a lot of us can't afford to live here. A lot of us can't afford to stay here. And it's really hard to find work here sometimes unless you have the training or whatever. So I was just curious about that. And you guys, I think, said that you thought you'd be in under a year, like living full time. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, with the biggest obstacles to a CFO right now would be the kitchen and the bathroom, which need to be completely done at this point because there's not much of them left. The stairway, from our housing inspection we had done, everything else should be in occupiable space except those three major things. There's some minor work that's in the roof, but it's not a structural issue at the moment.
Okay.
Okay. And you have your team all set up?
Most of it.
A lot of it does. We have not approached local contractor yet who would do some of the final on who it is, because everyone's schedule's fluctuating and I can't, get a go ahead from anyone right now without being more definitive if we're going to have the opportunity for them. But we have a lot of team personal support. Her uncle is a contractor out of state, but he's a very knowledgeable. My stepfather is an excavator who works for Gary O'Brien. And my brother also does flooring around the Springfield area and professionally to Connecticut too. So we've got a good core base to help. We've also connected with a really good home inspection team that also has a lot of trade skills and trade references in the area too, that would be able to help out with that. They've already been giving us a wealth of contact to help out with that.
Okay, I think that was all my questions.
All right.
I'm sorry, are you planning on doing much of the work yourselves or having professionals do it?
What the work we be doing ourselves mostly be cosmetic. Because basically like flooring, the joists are in good condition, but the flooring, sanding, stuff like that, we would take on sheetrock, things like that. Staircase, I would bring a contractor in to professionally do that, the roof line, the masonry, that kind of work. Through my family side, we would do some of the back work, the excavation where the retaining wall is damaged and needs to be taken down now and rebuilt, so it doesn't affect the foundation down the line. But then we'd probably bring in a professional company, which we already have a name and a price on, to do the front regrading to take the water further away from the foundation. So it'd be a combination, but mostly anything of the larger occupancy things, we'd bring a contractor in for professional, where we do some finishing work ourselves.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I just
Oh,
want to, as somebody who lives in the neighborhood that's near you and in a house that's the same era, I would suggest French drains for your basement when you do the excavation, because it's all coming off the mountain and it could end up in your basement. And since you're going to rip everything up, I'm just saying, go for it. Put it in a French drain right away.
Thank you. I think it'll ask if you, I don't know if you mentioned French, but I'll put a note on there to check that.
Okay.
Thank you for the very local knowledge. Yeah, because that hill just, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, where do you work?
I work for GA Blanco and Son. If you know George or Eddie Blanco. Yeah, it's RN71. We're an office and computer supply company that's right on the edge of Alford and North Egremont.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
You all?
Carolyn, would you like to give us the habitat story?
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, you're muted though.
Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, we've had our team out a couple of times and have really done a pretty good assessment. We do think there are some structural things that need to be added into it. There needs to be some lolly columns to reinforce the supports. I kind of put together a pretty extensive list of what needs to be done. We want to make sure that the house goes on your affordability list so that it counts, which means you can't go over an AMI of 80%. So that's where the top is that I went for. And we, of course, would have a built-in resaleability so that you know that this investment that the town is making into affordable housing will stay in the community for perpetuity. So we would, of course, have a deed restriction. We've actually, just from being out there, we've gotten quite a few people from CHP that have been contacting us waiting to find out what will be the end result. So it appears that there's a lot of local interest from folks that are working in the area and struggling to really have an affordable home ownership option when the rents are even so high. We put together, I think, a pretty good budget, laying everything out. And what questions might I be able to answer for you?
I don't know. Board members? Questions for Habitat?
Well, my question is, you said there was an 80% AMI and they think you're closer to 90. Is that going to affect this?
No, that
They have a separate RFP.
Okay.
They're not applying for Habitat home ownership, although I wish they were at the 80. We would love to partner with them. But it's not going to work out with what they said they are earning.
Can I ask, you guys did, or neighbors reached out to you, and I know that the neighbors, I think the neighbors attended one of our meetings asking for the historical stuff to be maintained a while back. But do you know, like, did the majority of the neighborhood reach out to you, or did you only hear from one or two people?
I think we heard from about 6, and then different days when we were out there doing like the one day the team just wanted to remove the tires if we had had permission, just because it was so upsetting to some neighbors. If I could have done it that day, I just would have done it to make them happy. But yeah, people have been reaching out through this whole time period, because I think that they had mistakenly thought, based on that one conversation when we were all there together, they thought that it was a done deal already. So they were wondering when we were going to get started, and they had ideas and things like that. So, and some of them are very excited to get started in helping make it happen. So I'm always excited about when community wants to work together. And we also did want to make sure that the driveway had a redesign, so that people will be coming out of the driveway facing forward because of the park being right there. Right now, most people just back out. So we just thought that was an increased safety item as well.
Yeah, and I know that neighborhood is really excited to see something done with the property. And I have another question, but I'm gonna let someone else interject because I need to find the tab. So,
Okay.
Well,
a sec.
I'm always good for a question.
I figured.
Carolyn, on your proposal, your calculations, Excel spreadsheet here, where you talk about selling it, you have 3 profiles for 50, 60, or 80% AMI sale. And the difference seems to be the subsidy line, i.e. that you increase the subsidy for people who have less income. My question is, where does that subsidy come from? Is that a Habitat fundraising item, or?
Normally. I mean, the cost of being able to provide affordable housing is very costly, as we all have learned over the last 10 years probably. So that's how you are able to do the lower AMI folks, is by having to have more subsidies. So we'll be going out and doing, I mean, there is always a chance that, I know that one person that dropped off an application at the office was at a 65% AMI when she dropped it off this week. So I'm hoping that it goes somebody to 60 to 80. That's a lot less fundraising I have to do.
Well, and on the same spreadsheet, the other variable seems to be the town taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that the town of Great Barrington, has the town of Great Barrington said that they would assess the property at a lower level? In other words, I guess what we talked to you about in another venue was, if we're selling houses at, say, 250,000, but the market rate might say it's worth 325,000. The tax assessor would assess it at the 250,000, provided there's a what do you call it, a covenant, a deed restriction for that level. I guess my question is, the initial sale would be at that 50, 60, 80, whatever percent AMI. Are you assuming that going down the road in subsequent sales, you'd maintain that same level?
Well, what would happen is when you go to Department of Housing and Community Development, they put on what the re-trigger sale amounts are. So they'll calculate out what the amount that you can make on each any subsequent sale that there is. So if somebody has it for 15 years and they have a 3% factor, so you would be able to increase it as time goes by.
And that would then trigger what our tax assessor is going to value the property, and therefore the tax
would go up. Yeah.
The tax would go up, Fred.
Yeah.
But say the people that you talked to at, say they were 60%, or you said 65, you had a client,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept it for, I don't know, 5 years or something. Could they sell it on to somebody at 80%?
If they do, it triggers a different thing. There's a whole calculation and it has to be approved. You know, all of these type of affordable housing things have to be monitored. So you have to have a monitoring agency. Habitat is a monitoring agency. So we would, if somebody said, I want to sell the property, we would then have to go back to the Department of Housing and Community Development, and they would finalize and approve the sale. And that would be the same if the folks that have presented before were going to be able to be on the list. And then, so they come back with the final figure. And then there's also very defined things that, like, for example, let's just say it was somebody 10 years from now and the house is worth 425,000 because things continue to appreciate. They're not going to get to keep the whole $100,000 extra either. There's a built-in factor for that. It's a little bit of a complicated formula, but they don't get to walk away with a whole bunch of equity. There's certain guidelines that make sure that that equity is protected in the property so that the town continues to have an affordable unit. Because if you had something that went up 4 1/4, even at somebody coming in at 80 AMI, is still not going to be able to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the house can appreciate to a certain extent, but it's kind of tied to,
Somebody can build some equity.
Yeah, there is always wealth generation. There's just not a,
Windfall.
there's always equity that stays with the house.
Right.
So it's not like one family gets to win the lottery, right?
It's not a windfall.
It's not a windfall. Thank you for that word.
Habitat's model typically uses owner labor,
Mhm.
sweat equity, I think you call it.
Yep.
In there. Would that be a part of this proposal as well?
Yes, they have to have 400 hours of sweat equity. And that's why if we get it, we want to propose starting something right away in June for taking in applications, doing community engagement work, obviously cleaning the property up right away. But really to be able to get them into their hours, because we don't have a long, I think we projected having it finished no later than March. So figuring people will be working full-time jobs, they have to do 400 hours of sweat equity. They're really going to need to get in there and be working pretty much every weekend. Or if they work weekends, whatever the other day is.
Mhm.
So they're going to have to be building their sweat equity pretty quickly in a short period of time.
okay.
And so you're able to process applications in that time frame
Oh, yeah.
and sufficiently advertised so that people for the area are aware of it? I mean, I don't want, this to be just because somebody happened to find out about it earlier.
No, what will happen is that, again, with when you're doing anything with Department of Housing and Community Development, you have to have your plan already laid out where you're going to do advertisements. So there'll be social media, there'll be at all of the like CHP, any place that low-income people or moderate to low-income people might frequent. I mean, we put it in the post office, we put flyers in lots and lots of places, and then we'll hold orientations right down in Great Barrington for people to come in and talk about, what is expected, show some, what do we think the project will completely look like, and then our homebuyer selection team will be on site to do interviews that same day. But then everybody gets thrown into the lottery and it gets chosen from there.
Right.
And I was talking to my counterpart in Northampton, and they said on the last house that they just put up, they normally get probably a dozen applicants. They had 65 people in the lottery last time. So I would expect that we'll get a very large turnout.
So this is only required if we want to include it in the
Correct.
affordable housing index, and somebody's buying it for themselves or refurbishing it for themselves, they wouldn't have to deal with all of this.
Correct. But you probably still would want to make sure that you're building in the resale factors into your, how
Yep.
you're structuring anything.
Yes.
Right.
Any other questions for Carolyn?
Did Larissa found her other one yet?
Oh, no, I think my question, I was just gonna ask if there was anyone from the neighborhood that had thoughts or
Elizabeth here,
questions
maybe?
or concerns. I think Mary Pat is our lone guest. You're muted.
I think the neighborhood was pretty okay with anybody that was going to just basically restore the house and make it a single family dwelling.
Yeah.
On the day we were there for the hours for visiting, it was very much them. They wanted to just make sure the house was going to be still that with the architectural style it matches, and it was going to be, occupied soon because, it's been sitting at least 3 years in that shape, if not before that, a little bit dilapidated before that. So
Yeah.
from what I could see, everyone coming over was asking that same question,
Yeah.
especially because there's been a lot of work in the area.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think another house just sold on that street, actually.
Yep. So,
I don't have any more questions for Carolyn. Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
No more questions.
okay, thank you, applicants. So how should we move ahead here? Do you want to tackle the evaluation criteria tonight? Are people prepared to do that? Do you want to schedule another meeting? Have some more time to go over these criteria?
Bill, do you want us to excuse ourselves?
There may still be some questions.
Okay.
Bear with me for a moment, but we may be almost done. What's the thought from the group? Do we want to get into evaluation criteria tonight? Would you prefer to sort of all take some time to go through the evaluation criteria individually and then regroup again in a couple of weeks or a week?
That would be my preference since I've been kind of busy.
You've been kind of busy.
I would like to have some time, extra time.
Yeah, but there's Bill. He's got plenty of extra time now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, Bill.
Yes.
I would like to be able to look thoroughly through and, do an assessment. Although I think that we shouldn't let too much time go by.
I agree.
If we could do a week or 2 weeks, I think that would be the outside.
Okay. Is that
I
the,
agree.
so that's the general consensus? We'll go through individually. I think I'd like everyone to go through individually and sort of rate the comparative evaluation criteria for both of the applicants. And then when we regroup, we can sort of assess where we're at and take a vote. Does that sound reasonable?
Okay.
For 2 weeks?
Within
Not a week.
the next 2 weeks. Within the next 2 weeks.
Real quick.
I'll send out a doodle poll so we can pick a date. And if you come up with specific questions, I think send them to Chris and he can send them on to the applicants rather than trying to do anything else, because it would be inappropriate for open meeting law to have any discussion between our two meetings. But I think individually, if you have a question, send it to Chris. He'll send it on to the applicants and get an answer back when you're going through the criteria. All right, I guess that is it. Thank you, applicants, as far as you're welcome to stay, but we're moving on to other things.
Thanks, you guys.
Take
Good
care,
to see you.
everybody.
We'll make a
Good to
decision
see you,
within a couple of
Caitlin.
weeks, so
Bill, good to see you guys.
Good luck,
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
thank you.
Didn't call you.
Nice.
So that's a plan. I'll send out well, maybe I'll send out something. Reorganizing.
You pass it on.
We
That's
got,
fine.
we got to keep Garfield.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
And
well, yes, let's make sure. Garfield, can you stay on your committee?
Yes, no one said it couldn't. I could have even stayed on the planning board if I so desired, but I resigned from it yesterday, actually.
And Garfield is now our select board representative, so
Oh, good.
he's kind of got to stay.
Well, I was
Never
hoping,
leave this committee.
I was hoping he would win so he could stay.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we value your input and really are helpful, are so thrilled that you're going to bring so many great ideas to the town and straighten out those guys. and
Thank
girls.
you. I wish I could, well, okay.
That was an interesting first meeting you had, Garfield.
Thank you very much. I thought, I
You
like,
did very well.
thank you. I like that first meeting very much. I like the outcome of it.
Yeah, you got what had to be done.
Yes.
So I would like to step down as chair of the committee because of this committee, because I'm trying to ease back a little bit on things that I do.
And you continue with the committee?
I will stay on the committee, of course, yes.
Because we're already under, I mean, I think we're authorized for 7 people.
We are, and I'm working on it.
Yeah, I asked the select board, I think a meeting or 2 meetings ago, if they could advertise the openings in the shopper's guide for a couple weeks or
Yeah.
somewhere that isn't the town website. I don't know how many newcomers visit or
Wait, we
current
are
residents
missing 2
visit
people?
the town website.
Yeah. You ready to sign on, Mary Pat?
Didn't she just get elected to the housing authority?
Yeah, God bless her.
He's getting muted.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Okay, well, I nominate Fred to be the chair.
well, I would
I
second
second
that.
that.
Oh, Garfield can second it.
I second that.
I accept.
I third it.
All
Okay,
right.
I guess we don't really need to take a vote then.
It's unanimous.
Don't you have to? I don't know the laws, but are we, shouldn't we, I guess, make it official?
All right. Any discussion? No. We'll do a roll call vote. Fred, I'm gonna ask you first because I forgot you last time.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes, I'll do it.
Larissa,
Aye.
Garfield,
Aye.
and John.
Yes,
All right, John.
We should also have a vice chair.
I nominate Bill Cook.
He's
I
like,
nominate Larissa.
Bill is trying so hard to retire.
I know it.
The vice chair doesn't do anything.
Well, can I make a nomination as well?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Larissa.
Okay, so who, now, Fred, did you nominate me first?
I nominated Bill Cook, but I never heard a second.
Okay,
No.
so
Yeah, and I broke
is there a second for me?
yes.
Okay. Any well,
Let's not make the mistake that happened last night. Not mistake, but
okay, and boy, now,
Garfield nominated Larissa.
okay,
And we didn't get a second on it, though.
can I, I guess discussion happens after.
Do you
I'll
have,
second that.
do you have the time, Larissa?
I mean, I do, like Fred said, it's not a very big commitment, but if Fred is, fully retired and I have faith that Fred can be the chair. So if Bill really wants to take a break from the commitment of it, I don't mind being the vice chair. But don't, like, if you have grandbabies and stuff, you have to tell me, Fred.
I have no grandchildren. I have 3 dogs that my daughters have. So,
Okay.
but
Almost the same thing, though.
so I guess we should take a vote on the first.
Well,
thing, the first
no, we got
thing.
2 candidates.
Well,
I will
I-
second Larissa for the record.
Thank you. I do have a question. Can
Yeah.
I question one of the nominees?
Yeah, discussion, and the nominee,
well,
I
my
believe, has
discussion
the
is-
ability to decline,
Would,
not accept.
is that a position you would like to have, Mr. Cook?
I would prefer to just be a board member.
But all your institutional knowledge,
Oh, I'm
Well,
not
you're-
going anywhere.
I'm going to be calling you up all the time.
That's okay.
Might as well do it officially.
Okay.
No, if you, I think the committee will respect your wishes. And we do have an alternate. Larissa said that she will be available.
It's an honorarium, really.
Which I thought you'd be delighted to accept.
Well,
You don't want that.
eh,
Got some young blood.
Yes.
They're all of us old guys. That's a young people.
All right.
She's a very knowledgeable young lady. Very smart.
I just know how much Bill is trying to enjoy his
All right.
That's
retirement.
exactly. I know.
Let's do it this way
Can-
then. I made the nomination for Bill.
We're
I
gonna withdraw.
offer to withdraw the nomination for Bill Cook for vice chair. And I think it was Garfield who did the second. Or was it John?
No,
It's
John, I
Garfield.
think so.
John, you have to withdraw your second too.
I withdraw my second.
Therefore, we have one candidate,
okay.
Which I nominated already, so we need.
which, by the way, since I was already elected, I should be chairing this meeting now.
Oh, there you go.
Listen to the guy.
There you go.
Isn't that the way it works? It's not the next meeting. It's like
Yeah,
immediately.
right away.
I-
Like when you
agree.
got elected, you were like all of a sudden you were off the select board or the
That's
election
right.
happened.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
Hey, that's right, Bill.
any
No,
discussion for Larissa as vice chair? Hearing none.
Really
Roll
great.
call vote.
Hearing none.
Bill, Larissa,
Aye.
Garfield,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Larissa,
Hi.
and Fred votes aye. Unanimous.
Congratulations.
Um,
I'll update the
That's
website.
good. And we get some youth on the board.
Yeah, and let's do
So,
a big round of applause to Bill and our new. And our
And
new
thank you, Bill,
chair.
for starting this committee. You know, I don't think we say it enough, but
No,
thank you for conceiving of this,
yeah,
of starting this committee, of getting it birthed and
Yeah.
and up to speed,
yeah.
and having some, projects now that we can sink our teeth into.
Yeah.
We got some.
Man.
So thank you very much for all of your hard work going forward. And I am going to be relying on you quite a bit.
Call me anytime.
Do you have, I've seen the ads that you placed in the shopper's guide.
Yep.
I thought they were very well done. Have you had any response from them? Do you have a report?
Our website is up about 270% in terms of visitors, but we haven't
Great.
gotten any more applications.
3 versus 1, basically. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, we would get maybe 20 or so, and it's way up from there. A lot more interest.
I think that this was a very reasonable investment to get the program known. And for the right people who fit into that window, I think it's a great thing. Bill, have you had any discussion about the MassWorks grant for the North Plain Road site?
I had some original discussion with Chris, who couldn't be here tonight. We're like a year out at least on that, probably 2
For
the MassWorks grant. They changed around some dates. The application deadline was going to be June of this year. There's no way we can make that. It was supposed to be in August. And
it was a letter of interest for June, wasn't it? I'll talk to Chris.
Yes, I will have to consult with Chris on that. But Chris is on it. So
Regarding the North Plain, I mean, I'm asking you because you've been involved with these things more than up to this point. We had some discussion about using some of the CPA money that didn't get used for the acquisition of the property. Seems to me it was about $14,000 for possible survey and engineering.
Yes,
And does that have to go through town meeting?
I believe that's on the warrant.
So my recollection is that we've got about 14,000 there that was originally granted by CPA for the acquisition. We thought also for professional services.
Yes,
And we're asking basically that they extend that to allow us to use it for survey and engineering in terms of
Right.
professional services.
the problem was that it was not specified in last year's warrant item from the CPC.
Okay,
Now, they knew that that's what we wanted it for, and we actually cut back from our original ask, which was 200,000.
Yep.
To 185, and so that's where we have the extra money, including what we had put down initially. So, yeah, there's about 14,000 in there, and I believe that is on the warrant to be approved by town meeting.
I mean, it does occur to me that if I was going back and forth on this whole MassWorks grant, and for the end, before we can even apply for it, we have to do a certain level of engineering.
Yeah.
So this whole planning grant is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But I thought it originally was part of Habitat's proposal. I did not realize that it was something that the town would be doing. That adds a whole year to the whole thing, rather than having Habitat out there with their own funds right now, doing engineering and survey. We've put that on the town because it's a public issue and because it's a grant funded proposal with a long lead time and a long timeline.
Yeah.
It's adding a year to the project rather than having all the engineering in place and being able to start, working with the neighbors, working with getting into the next cycle for the actual construction grant. And I think that there is a possibility that we could do it a different way if we can't qualify for the planning grant. So I think we may have to look at that.
Yes. And we should look at that sooner rather than later. Christmas couldn't be here tonight, so.
I'll call Chris.
Yeah.
So that's the next step, as far as I know, is the planning grant for the engineering and survey.
Yes.
And realistically, before it doesn't have to be taken to the 60% level, but it needs to be at the 20-30% level before Habitat can start working with the neighbors and start suggesting any more than they already know as to where the drainage might go and
Right.
where some of the details are. I think I'd like to engage the neighbors as we come out of this COVID thing. And in general, I was thinking August or late summer, early fall. Basically, I don't want it to go on another 6 months after that, because we had interest in it before we, when we did the original selection and such. And it's going to get stale. People are going to think, well, what are you doing for 2 years?
Yeah.
So we need to keep it. We need to keep the momentum up.
Yes. I would agree.
Accounting.
So now there's still one more item or a few more items on the agenda. You have the agenda, Fred?
I do.
Okay.
So we've elected officers. We only have 2 constitutional officers, so those 2.
Mhm.
We need to have a discussion about the future direction of the Affordable Housing Trust. Larissa had put together a pretty interesting idea list
Mhm.
previously, and where can we go with this that is productive, that is realistic, and can help to expand affordable housing in the community? And I think that, you know, the floor should be open for anybody who has any ideas. I think, you know, I'll just say, I think that there's a limit to how many construction projects we can manage. I think that if we're doing any grant-funded dollar projects, we are tied to the CPC funding stream with its lead time and its resistance to really being a full partner. If that's me speaking personally.
Mhm.
I think that the other part that we can talk about is education. So I'll open the floor up for anyone who wants to follow up on any of those issues or any others.
Well, I have another issue I just wanted to bring up, which is we have a cap on our down payment assistance program. The maximum purchase price is $300,000. And I'm wondering if there's anything left under 300,000 anymore. And if we should consider raising that, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
Just popping in to say that I haven't seen anything, guys.
Yeah, are we allowed to raise it?
We're allowed to do, yes, to do that.
Would we be
Whether I,
looking at the town center?
well, I mean, the question is the program going to become obsolete because the window has gotten so small?
Right.
But the window is average sale price plus the affordability index. You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to say that we'll participate at a $500,000 house because, you know, you're still talking about income qualifications,
Yeah.
that somebody can't afford that. And if they can, it means they've got a hell of a lot bigger down payment than I've ever had when I bought a house. So,
Yeah, the thing that brought it to my attention was one of the previous applicants that we got that we disqualified because they were over, the purchase price was over 300,000. They had a 10% down payment already. And it was a $380,000 house. And I thought, you know, do they really need our help for this? Maybe they do, but
I don't think that's what the original program was designed for.
Yeah.
I think you can get a mortgage with a substantial 10%, you know, at that level, depending, of course, on what your income is.
right. Well, I believe they were income qualified. Yeah, they were income qualified. We got their tax returns for 2 years.
The issue, Fred, are the house prices now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're way up. And we're seeing it on the Board of Assessors. We had a long meeting today, and the requests for abatements have gone up. And the mean price of a house here now is up in the 500,000 or 600,000s, I think. I mean, it's that's part that is part of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I mean, in terms of affordable housing, the CDC has opened its Bentley Apartments, and there are 45 apartments there. They had 165 applicants. So we've really got to think this through carefully.
Anyhow, I just wanted to bring that up as something we should think about. And
Not ready to do anything right now. I think that going forward, I think we need to adjust. But since it's such a recent spike,
Yeah.
I think it needs time to settle out.
yeah,
Well, it's a spike in terms of those who decided to move up here during the pandemic, but it's also based on the cost of building a house, which is part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the person who built our house, and it was finished in 2000, told Laura and me that it would cost 2.5 to 3 times what we paid to build this house if we rebuilt the same house today.
My insurance company keeps telling me that. They say you have to insure it for more and more. And then like, yeah.
Well, talk to the
material.
contractors, you get the real sense of what's going on.
Yeah, that's really what's killing people is the material cost.
Yeah,
Like it just went through the freaking
That's
roof.
been nuts.
No, it's
Didn't,
not.
did we talk at some point about one of us like sort of regularly attending the CDC meetings? Or the CPC? There's too many C's, I get them all
Yes.
mixed up, but I think it was the CDC.
Well, that's the
Whoever's-
Community Development Corporation.
That's
Okay,
Community Development Corporation, and they just finished the apartments at the base of Bridge Street, and they're now working on a new project which will have 49 units at 910 South Main.
yeah, and didn't they just get like $14 million for that?
For South Main,
Yeah,
we haven't gotten them, well, they haven't gotten the money committed yet.
oh, okay.
Because once it's committed, they get a developer's fee out of it.
Oh, okay. Whichever board is responsible for providing affordable housing but forgets it sometimes. We talked about that.
That's kind of my
The
question.
CPC by requirement has to spend a portion of the annual tax assessment on affordable housing. They're required to have a portion for open space, for historic preservation, and for affordable housing. That doesn't necessarily mean in the public venue to us. It can mean like these other, Construct or the Community Development Corporation, which is what it has been typically in the past.
Yeah.
And the deadline for us to file is September for a letter of interest, and then October, I believe, for an application.
Yeah.
That would then go on the following the town meeting warrant for the spring 2022 town meeting and be available to us July 1st of 2022.
Right.
So we have a little bit of time, but we typically don't meet as much in the summer. If there are any ideas that people have, we can look into them and see what the constraints and legalities are. Regarding increasing the affordability above the 300,000, it's a similar situation to the situation we're in with the North Plain Road professional services, money, that we would then have to go back to the CPC. They would have to approve it, and it would have to go back before town meeting to get increased. Anytime we change, anytime we change the parameters of that we presented while we asked for the money.
Yeah.
we have to go through the whole process of having them vote on it and going through town meeting.
We,
I have a question
well,
with the finance. It's not my forte, but I need to understand, are these the people, one of these CDCs, all these Cs, are they not working with us? Are they not seeing the same figures we see? Are they not aware of,
Well,
of how everything is going? The money is
well, they,
being inflated?
the CDC, the CDC, Garfield, is they're in a different field. I mean, they build these huge complexes for affordable apartments, such as Bentley, which just opened. They don't do what we're capable of doing, given our size.
yeah.
I mean,
Fred,
we're almost more on a one-on-one situation.
yeah. Fred, I just wanted to respond to how we can change the cap for the purchase price.
Right.
When we changed our the amount that we could give-
80% to 100.
well, no, the amount that we could give from 5% to 10%, we only needed approval from the CPC.
Okay,
Now that sort of change doesn't have to go through town meeting.
okay.
Because it
I
doesn't change the
stand
amount of money
corrected.
we get.
I don't know what we would go to. You know, if you did 10%, you'd do 330,000 instead of 300. And you know, and I think that might be a reasonable increase, but is that going to capture more people? I don't know.
Hard to say.
I think that, you know, we need to keep the idea that affordable housing is below $350,000.
Well, yeah, that's yeah, certainly that.
I couldn't afford my own house now. I mean, that's what they're telling me right now is
Yeah.
if I had to buy my house, I couldn't do it.
That's why we're not homeowners. We rent, which is probably more expensive in the long run. But oh, I was just gonna say something.
I wanted to ask a question. Is there an opportunity would the CPA understand if you purchased a home that had 2 barns in it and they could be retrofitted to multiple units? Is it different than 330,000? Would we be able to use $500,000?
Mhm.
And if we were going to make 4 units?
Right now, it's not written that way. It's written according to what the deed is, and it doesn't.
Even though our
if there's
zoning,
even if it's a conventional 2-family, say you purchased a conventional 2-family, we had somebody who did that on near Risingdale Pond.
Yeah.
Was one of our success stories, and that was treated as a single purchase, I believe, not as 2 units.
Yeah.
We can't multiply them just because you got barns and outbuildings, and because the planning board has allowed anybody to build anything.
Amen.
all right.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. And Garfield, I think you were corrupted by them, but that's my own personal.
No way. I don't think so, Fred.
Um,
Well, he's uncorrupted now.
I am uncorrupted now. Thank you.
so
I think that we need to continue to explore. I think that I'm thrilled to have Habitat coming south. I'm thrilled that other people are interested as well. And I think that, you know, Construct and Habitat in particular, June and Jane, and have been very good partners and very good sources for information. And I think if we can continue to work with them, not necessarily on the proposal we have now, I think that we need to give Bill and Caitlin a very good, a fair assessment. What I had talked about, I think 2 years ago now, was June Wolfe had told us that they only do larger projects because of the way they fund them, the way that they go and bundle several different grants, and then each grant has to be monitored and reconfirmed every year with the income. I think that we need to be looking at 1 to 4 family units, and we need to keep thinking about how to keep 1 to 4 family units affordable. You know, Construct and community development do a really good job of creating affordable rental units, but we're the only people right now that are more focused on home ownership. And we need to continue to work on that.
So I have 2 quick follow-ups, Fred, to that. Jane and I talked briefly on the phone because I sort of want to pick her brain a little bit. So her and I are going to get together when I come back from vacation in early June, primarily so I can pick her brain. But I also want to sort of keep her and June included. I think that you're right. I think they're good partners, and I think, you know, a creative conversation with them about maybe how to do things differently or pivot together would be good. And I got an email today. There's a 3-county housing meeting, Hampshire, Franklin, Berkshire, I think next Tuesday, to talk about the American Rescue Funds and how they're being distributed to housing. So if anyone didn't get that email, I can forward it to you. And I think I got looped in by Jane. And I should have time to attend it, but I think that will be interesting. I hope I have time to do that. So,
yeah. Well, a couple of things have come up recently. And one is, I don't know if you have been following the story of the, what was it? It was the yellow building near what used to be the old Sears, which is now Goodwill. There was
condemned,
living in it, and the health department is about to condemn it, and there's no place for these people to go. Some of them are, you know, undocumented, and it's really a problem. And I think at some point we should go to the CPC and say, you should just give us $1 million. And when stuff like this comes up, we can respond to it. We can find temporary housing for them. We can fund that. We can, you know, maybe even get the place rehabbed. But you can't, when that happens, you can't like wait for a CPC application and town meeting and all of that. But if it's just given to the trust as a fund, which is what they should have done years ago, we can respond to situations like that as they come up. And I'd like to push that this year.
I think that it's a great idea, and I think it's one that we've had in the past. But I think we have to come with ammunition. And I think that we need to go, when we first were established, we connected with the state affordable housing trust coordinators and with some of the other affordable housing trusts in Berkshire County. I think that we have to have examples. You know, and we have to remind the CPC that they have an obligation to afford to proactively fund affordable housing. What they've asked for in the past is some examples. I mean, there's a couple of members and a couple of very loud members who want to control everything and are unwilling to give unencumbered funds for emergency use there. But I think if we can, you know, one, we're in better shape right now. We've done a couple things. We've had a few success stories. Two, if we can show a typical example, such as the yellow building,
Right.
what we might do there, say this is what we would have done had we had funds for emergency. And 3, demonstrate there's a crisis. 4, talk about how the precedent has been set all across the state of Massachusetts, how Yarmouth gives a 1/3 of the CPC money just to their affordable housing trust every year with
Yep.
no strings attached.
Right.
And they, because we are a board that is a public entity. We're not construct or community development. We are we've been appointed by the elected select board. We're responsible for reporting to them. We follow all of the public fiduciary and open meeting laws. And we are different than a private nonprofit because we are a public entity.
Yeah. Yes. They only want to fund projects. They don't want to just fund a group.
Mary Pat, are you saying goodbye?
Yeah, no, I hate to break in. Is there a survey or the information that we know how many landlords there are in town or rental units of the single family houses that are in town? Is there any way to understand how many houses are owned by landlords and thus rental units?
Well, I respond. Construct has a lot of good recent data from 2020 from the COVID. They worked with 90 different landlords in Great Barrington. It was 90 families, 45 landlords, something like that. But and those are the landlords that are, sometimes mom and pop, sometimes small operations who have to pay their bills too. So we have that recent data from what they've done. I believe the town planning board keeps data on rental units and homeowner-owned properties. So we can get that data.
Yeah, I think BRPC has some data like that too.
Yes, every year we get that.
I guess just my thought is in understanding, particularly, I think that there are a handful of landlords that own multiple dwellings, right? And we know that. And I'd just be curious to know what the price is. I mean, a friend of mine, took census numbers. Those places are substandard. It's like the Yellow House, and for human dignity, it's like, okay, these are the landlords. I won't use the SLUM word, but there are some situations there that, what is the land trust? I mean, not land trust, but what is the housing trust? Is there a role there to kind of understand and say, look, we'll take a couple of these off your hands because really the code's not right, the electric's not right, blah, blah, blah's not right, the fire's not right. But if you want to sell it to us, that's really where I was going with this. So anyway, just a thought.
Something to think about.
Yeah. I'm guessing we wouldn't have too many takers if they're got an income stream from the property, which they haven't put any money into for years.
Right. Well, yeah, my point is that the town could really be crazy though. I mean, they're not legal. A lot of those places aren't legal and they turn over and they're not legal and they're substandard. And you know, people are living in them, and it's not cool that they should have to live like that. So that, I guess that's my point. I mean, I walk in this neighborhood all the time, and there's a variety of houses around in here, and I just look at them and they're clustered together, and I think, who owns those houses? And like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, there has,
it's like the yellow house. I mean, that yellow house was waiting to
Yeah.
fall apart. I mean, that's been a mess for years.
yeah.
Yeah.
There has been some talk on the select board about, you know, health inspections of rental properties. It was sort of a way to find out more about Airbnb properties in town. And then you'd have to get a certificate of some kind from the health department. It hasn't really gone anywhere. Maybe that can be your job, Garfield. Get the
Yeah.
health department to inspect
One thing I didn't think about as soon as you said it. Why
Yeah.
not? It
Yeah.
would be nice to have someone to police that, make sure up to code. I don't know about us, the rest. Are you kind of saying, Mary Pat, that you want us to kind of come in and say, we'll take over these slummy buildings and let us fix them?
Well,
And then we'll go ahead.
I think, wait.
You're
Nope,
muted.
just muted yourself. Mary Pat, you muted yourself.
Muted myself.
Yeah.
I guess I was looking for the fact that building materials are expensive, yeah, all the hoops that you have to jump through. And so I was actually looking for existing condition situations, right, that are ripe. And so what looks ripe to us that's still affordable? And I was trying to come in the back door and say, okay, there's some landlords out there who clearly own multiple buildings, and I think
Mhm,
we can think of a couple of people.
mhm.
And like, let's put a little pressure on them, and at the very
Right,
least,
that's what I thought. You said.
at the very least, the landlords are gonna fix them up a little bit, and that's what we really want, is good, safe, affordable housing for people.
Yeah.
So like, they need to do their job, and that's what we want them to do. And if we're getting grants, yeah, I guess that's really what I meant. And if they don't do it, then we say, well, look, you can sell it to us for this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It might be tough. Yeah. Mhm.
It's zoned, it's already there, it's not going to change the neighborhood. It's literally just improving the conditions and the neighborhood.
Well, I think that, you know, this is Fred again. I think that it's a good plan. I think it's some ideas to work on. We're kind of hamstrung because we don't have our own revolving funds. So it comes back to that money. What can we do with it? Because, you know, if they say sure, but we don't have any ability to act on that. So I think it's one of those things that we need to do a little bit more homework on. We can look into landlords. I think that that's a good approach. So, and in terms of where we're going to go with this committee, how can we make the biggest impact? You know, if you do have any additional ideas,
Well,
of how we can leverage our involvement towards creating, reinforcing, manufacturing affordable housing, I think we need to explore all avenues.
Well,
Yeah, and the tree committee usually doesn't meet during the summer either, but we have decided to meet once a month moving forward because we're also working on cool, exciting stuff too. So I wouldn't object to like a monthly meeting just to keep in
That
touch.
would be terrible. Neither would I.
Is there this is the, what, second Thursday? Does that work for people, or can we make it a regular appointment, or do you want to prefer to still do the doodle poll?
do the doodle program.
The doodle poll only helps with the time of day for me. And I'm going away the last week of May, so to take vacation for the first time in like a decade.
Mhm.
But I'll be back in early June.
The doodle program is the best for me.
Your schedule's kind of flexible, John?
Well, let me put it this way. I can figure out how to maneuver it to get what I want to get.
Okay. I guess we'll leave
Or
it at
whatever
that.
works. I don't mind setting a date once a month on the second, whatever, or the doodle poll,
I couldn't,
whatever works. I'm okay with.
I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that because
Mondays are out. I don't want to do any Mondays.
yeah,
That's right.
do that because of my overall schedule.
Okay.
No more Fridays. I don't think that was very successful.
I'll go for that.
Yeah.
No Mondays or Fridays. Or for
Fridays
me.
are good. Fridays are actually good days.
Me?
Doodle poll, Fred.
Doodle.
Doodle poll it is.
Doodle poll it is, Fred.
All right. Well, Bill, I've got a lot to learn about how to manage this committee. So I'm
It's
going to
tough.
be calling Bill to
Call
figure
me
all this stuff
anytime,
out.
like I said.
Bill, have you gotten from Chris yet the list of the actual monies that we have available?
I think I may have it somewhere, but I would have to dig for it. He could send us a new one, I think.
Yeah, because I think Construction will be coming to us for more shortly.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Maybe
know that
that's-
we have more.
Yeah, maybe that's the way we can get rid of some of our down payment assistance money if nobody can afford to buy a house even with 10% down.
Exactly.
Yeah, could we throw like a money update on the next agenda? Just where we stand with
Yeah.
what we have.
Yeah, Chris is putting one together,
Okay.
so we'll know exactly what we have and
I'd still like to come back for a third or fourth time. I forget how many times I've tried to present this to the CPC. The big mortgage buy down where we buy a $400,000 house, bring up the code, whatever needs to be brought up to code, and put it back on the market for an affordable price and just make that do the subsidy. I think we could even raise money from individuals and banks and businesses in town to do something like that if we had a project in mind. If we could come up with a house that we want to buy and fix up and put back on the market.
I could see us buying like a 2-family and splitting it into 2, call
Yeah.
them condo units, whatnot, and making each one affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what
I
I'm
like that
talking about.
idea.
Yeah,
Or like Mary Pat's Barns, you know?
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
And-
Yeah.
And I
Buy
think,
the $400,000 house.
Yeah.
Take and make housing units in the barns.
Right.
And, you know, all of a sudden multiply it by 3. So
right. So I think if we can put something like that together, and I'll take a crack at it at first.
I would encourage you to think leverage though.
Yeah. Well, I think
In terms of, you know, I think a direct 400, we're giving you 200, you only have to pay 200, won't be very popular with the CPC. I think if we can do it in sort of a more creative way and say, this investment of 200,000, we can create 3 housing units because we're going to buy a 3-family, we're going to buy a unit and we're going to create 3 units out of it. And each one's going to sell for 200,000
right.
or whatnot.
I mean, I think they have to get over the idea that, you know, for 200,000, they should get an $18 million 45-unit building. Because that just doesn't happen all the time. And I don't think it's such a good idea anyhow.
I think that they have this hang up on doing it on a retail basis. By that, I mean 1s and 2s rather than 40 units at a time. Because I think that it gets, you know, it's, don't forget, this still has to go to town meeting. And I can imagine standing up before town meeting and saying, somebody's going to come in and they're going to win the lottery because we're going to give them a $400,000 house, but they're only going to have to pay $200,000 for it because your CPC or
Your tax.
committee gave us your tax dollars to subsidize this family.
Yeah.
I can just hear Michelle, standing up now, telling me where to go. So.
Mhm. Yeah, needs work.
But if we can leverage it, like I said, something like the Yellow House, maybe we buy it and turn it into 4 units.
Right.
Um,
Instead of 10.
and each one's affordable.
It's not for sale right now, is it? Because it's condemned, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think,
It's got some building code issues that are really extreme.
Yeah.
And structural. I mean, like ceilings that are less than 7 foot tall. And
yeah, I've been reading yeah. Okay.
The health board did not condemn it,
Not yet.
bringing it. Well, no, it's going to housing court.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
thank you, Eileen.
They did not condemn because they didn't want to make people homeless.
Right.
Got it.
Well,
Okay.
that's only an example. I don't want anybody to get the idea that this board has anything to do with that property or is acting in any capacity on that project. We really don't have any say in it, any purview in it, other than looking at the whole town and looking at affordable units within the town. And I think that, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea because we don't have any say in that project right now.
Yeah. The other thing I hear is coming down with that, I think what Larissa was talking about, that seminar with the counties and affordable housing. The money that's coming in, I believe, can be used to purchase hotels and motels for affordable housing. And my guess is there's 1 or 2 hotels or motels might be in the market. So
Construct has, June and Jane invited me to the last one. It wasn't a whole county and I was at work, so I was like co-listening, but there is some hotel or inn in Sheffield that has approached Construct. I don't know what the details are, but they have been approached about it. And that's why I'm interested to attend the county meeting because I think it's a cool concept.
right.
And I just read somewhere today that maybe in that email she sent that some city has had like a ton of success with it. I know that California, San Francisco was doing it too. So yeah.
If you could share that with either with me or with the committee, whichever you're comfortable with.
Okay. I'll find it and send it.
Okay.
I know that there is a housing steering committee because Carolyn has told us that she and Jane regularly attend that. So, all right. I guess we've gone through that. Is there any more comments from any of the Housing Trust members?
No.
Hearing none. Citizen speak time. Are there any people on the call who have anything to say at all? Please make yourself known.
You can raise your hand.
You're on the phone to *9, right?
Yeah, something, I don't remember.
Something, I think it's *9.
Hearing none. Media time. Any members from the media want to comment any further?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Eileen, we appreciate all you do. On the agenda, it says the next meeting date will be determined by Zoom. We already talked about a doodle poll.
Yep.
In general, it would be my desire to meet within the next 2 weeks. The main item on the agenda will be the review and scoring of the RFP proposals. I remind everybody that we have a program that we need to follow and respond to the criteria that were in the RFP in order to assure that it's done in a reasonable and open in fashion. So if you could take a look at those criteria, if you need them again, I can send them to you.
I think that's probably a good idea in any event, Fred.
And then, you know, please look at them relative to each of those points and come prepared to score, if you will, each proposal that we've received, so that we can document why we chose one proposal or another.
Fred, can you send them to my new email address? I think my computer just, you know what, in the bed, because it's not seem to be working. The screen is not working.
Your Great Barrington town address?
Yeah. GarfieldReed.gb@gmail.com, all lowercase.
And send it to me too, please.
Yes. All right, I guess I'm chair, so hearing without exception, we are adjourned for the night. Thank you, everybody, for participating.